Well, hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And just when things started looking up for us, 3 Premier League wins on the bounce, something had to jump in the way and put us back in a situation that we don't want to be in. So this season already we've had many injuries because of international duty. In one international break we lost 5 players just to injuries and a couple to illness. The second international break left us without both our Argentinian players, Romero being one of them, who's led to be out until January. Now we have Conte's Covid conundrum. That's what I'm calling it. Right, so welcome to the channel, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to support it with a like, and you can leave your comments below so we can keep the conversation going after the video. Now, the reason I hadn't reported over the last couple of days on this is because I knew it was going to escalate, it was going to get worse. Look, at the end of the day, it's a virus within a club, people that come in contact all the time, and it has done. So originally it was reported 6 players and 2 members of staff. The following day, 7 players and 2 members of staff. Antonio Conte has come out and confirmed himself in an interview. 13 members at the club have got COVID. Now, obviously, these are all lateral flow tests to start with. They're waiting on PCR testing to come back. So I don't know if PCR test-wise it's 13 people or that's lateral flow with some waiting on PCR. Now, I don't know whether Premier League clubs can have PCR tests rushed through. I'm sure they will for the kind of industry that they're in. I know, listening to Alistair Gold, he was saying reporters, because they're going abroad and analysing games, they are able to have theirs rushed through to 3 hours so they can go. So maybe we don't have to wait till the next day for these Premier League players. But 13's not great, is it? So 8 of them being players, 5 being members of staff. Now, they haven't come out and officially said who these people are. But originally, they were saying within the 6, there was someone like Sonny was one of them, Lucas Moura being another, Emerson Royale, Brian Hill, Ryan Mason being one of the members of staff. To me, look, it doesn't matter who it is, because there clearly is a crisis at the club in terms of this. We're not the first club to go through it. Plenty of other teams have, and I'm surprised we've managed to survive this long without anything like this happening. Now, don't worry, I'm going to throw a couple of transfer stories in at the end just to make this a slightly more positive video, depending on whether you want those players or not. Look, but the situation is that the game on Thursday against Rennes will probably still go ahead. We have the option to plead with the Premier League to have the game against Brighton postponed. Now, the way the competitions are run, and this is where it's stupid, UEFA and the English FA clearly don't agree on how to run things. They've got 2 different sets of rules. One of them, you can have games postponed if you have less than 13 players available or no goalkeepers. And with the other one, it's 14 players or goalkeepers. So the fact that they can't agree is ridiculous. It should be made fair. Essentially, in Europe, they're saying if you have enough players, you play. Whereas the Premier League looks like it might be a bit more flexible in the sense that they'll look at safeguarding issues as well as the numbers. And as you can see with Spurs over the last few days, we've gone from 6 players to 8 players. And that's from 8 people to 13 people. So 5 extra people have caught it over the last few days. Now, Antonio Conte has obviously come out and he's been speaking about this. And I'll kind of summarise roughly what he said, which was, the problem is every day we're having people with COVID. People that yesterday weren't positive and today are. And we're continuing to have contact with people. It's a serious problem. Preparing for a game at the moment, the game against Rennes, and then after training, 1 extra player and 1 extra member of staff then tested positive. So the problem with all this is people are testing negative, then the next day they're being tested and testing positive. Now, the issues that you have with something like COVID is the symptoms and the ability to test positive on a lateral flow test don't necessarily come up straight away. It takes a while for it to get into your system to the point where it's in your saliva glands, it's in your nostrils, for the test to come out positive. So what would have happened is the guys that were already positive would have been within the squad, maybe not showing symptoms, maybe failed lateral flow tests. The following day they've, ended up coming positive on a lateral flow test, but they've been in contact with other players. Now what's happened is those players that weren't showing symptoms, there's a knock-on effect. So the next lot of players and staff that have just come up positive, probability is there's going to be more people because there's a domino effect. Okay, because there's a delay in the ability in your immune system to to cause us to test positive. So the domino effect, and this is where I think the Premier League are a bit more sensible. They know there's going to be more cases, and by the time we come round for the Brighton game, we could have a sufficient number of players out for the game to be postponed anyway. Now, the danger is if the Premier League allow the game to go ahead, there's likely to be some people that have contracted COVID that aren't at a stage where they can test positive. It's not further enough within the system. They're going to come in contact with people, and then those people from the opposition will begin to test positive, and then you've got exactly the effect we've seen going on over the last God knows how long, which has shut the world down several times. So hopefully that game will be postponed in the interest of health. And on top of that, we could have a very depleted squad because we don't know the people that are out. There has been training today, open training, which the club would have fulfilled under their obligations. People would have been further enough away to watch anyway. Now, I haven't had a chance to watch the footage yet to find out who was and wasn't involved in training, but that would have given us an indication of people that are out. Now, we can probably assume that Emerson Royale was one of those people, as he was confirmed as ill for the last Premier League game and didn't feature in the squad whatsoever. So I should imagine he's one. Probably Brian Hill as well, as he wasn't involved. As for the rest, not too sure. I guess when we play tomorrow night, that will be the biggest indicator, because as we saw, Antonio Conte is more than willing to put big name players on the bench in certain games. Obviously, the Mura game, we had a very strong bench because he didn't want to risk too much, although probably should have started more of them, but we won't talk about that right now. So we know at least going into this must-win game, he would have started with a fairly strong squad and probably mixed in a couple of the fringe players rather than the other way round, where we have the majority of them fringe players with a few of the first-team starters mixed in. So I would have expected a very strong squad. So tomorrow, if it's not a ridiculously strong squad, that gives you an indicator of some of the people that have the virus. But needless to say, it looks like that game will go ahead. The Brighton one, possibility of postponement. Hopefully, there is a postponement on that one. So look, that's it for the COVID story. Don't want to drag it on too much. That's the ins and outs. Plenty of people in the club have COVID. Expect more cases over the coming days. Antonio is clearly frustrated at this. Look, we're just on a good run of games. That's the situation we got. That's what we have to deal with. Right, moving on. Celtic, obviously they've got Cameron Carter-Vickers on loan. Now, pre-season, Cameron Carter-Vickers was used quite heavily by Antonio Conte and has been by pretty much every single manager at Spurs. Usually that's because of players coming back from international breaks, and he is a more than capable centre-back who has had successful spells on loan in the Championship over the years. He's now on loan at Celtic and he's doing very well. He's doing very well over there. The fans seem to really like him. He's in most of the squads. He's made, 18 appearances for them so far. He's got a goal, he's got his assist. He actually got an assist in the last game that he played. He's been very solid for them, and I thought he looked okay in pre-season. Now, the problem we have with Carter-Vickers, he never gets any decent run of games to bed himself into the squad. Pre-season, it's chopped and changed, and he's playing against a new partner nearly every game. So we'll never get to see his full capability for Spurs unless he's trusted. Now, over there, they said that they have the option to buy, and there was rumours that with add-ons it was going to hit around 10 million. I don't believe that for a second. There are reports coming out now it's more likely to be around 3 million that they can get him for, which I think, based on the season he's had in and his age and the fact that he's in and out of the international squad for the USA, 3 million's a bit of a steal, if I'm honest. I think his performances in the Championship over the last few seasons have been good enough to warrant at least 5 to 7 million. Now, that might be a more realistic price with add-ons. But look, he's developed nicely. He's earned us a decent amount of money over the years because he spent most of his time at Spurs out on loan, which wouldn't have just included them paying his wages. There would have been loan fees as well. So he's been a good small earner for the club. Now, talking about transfers we could possibly get involved in ourselves. Ousmane Dembele from Barcelona. So he's been given an ultimatum by Barcelona as to decide whether he's going to extend his contract or not. Many clubs are going to be after his signature. We are one of the clubs that apparently have made contact, although I'm a bit confused why. So ourselves, Man United and Newcastle are all going to try and offer him a contract. Now, he will go for a free at the end of the season if he decides not to extend. Barcelona have given him an ultimatum and he's got a matter of days to decide what he's going to do. They need to get people off their wage bill at the end of the day. So he earns wages of 210 grand a week, which would make him one of the top, if not the top earner at Spurs just on a basic wage. That's without any kind of bonuses involved whatsoever. Look, undoubtedly the guy has amazing talent. That is not in question whatsoever. Every single manager he's worked with has said it. We've seen evidence of it. When the guy is on form and playing well, incredible player. My biggest issue, apart from the high wages, is the fact that he has this severe hamstring injury that has been hampering him a lot. Now, as we saw with Gareth Bale towards the end, Real Madrid certainly have seen with Gareth Bale, injuries with a superstar and mega money are just not great. And I mean, 210 grand for a player out in Barcelona or Real Madrid is not mega money. That's kind of a standard wage for them guys out there. But for Spurs, 210 grand, that's a lot of moolah. He'd have to drop his wages quite a bit. But the reason why there's the possibility of him coming over to one of these clubs is we all have the ability to offer a signing on bonus, because obviously it's all about the money and not about the football whatsoever. Now, for me, great player. If he could stay injury-free, of course I'd want him at Spurs. However, I can't see this happening, and for me, it's a complete and utter waste of money. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this one, because, you know, a fit Dembele, unreal player. Do you think he can sustain it? I mean, personally, I don't think. Premier League, much harder division. You're coming up against stronger opposition on a consistent basis, and I think injuries, if anything, are just going to get worse. So for me, waste of money. Let me know below what you think. Now, the second story, and this will be the last one that I'll do. Don't want to do a really long video. A player that we were linked with several times over the last few years. In fact, ever since he showed any kind of prominence in the Premier League, and then back in the Championship. Now, that man is Max Aarons, and we actually came up against him the other day. Could we finally land this guy that we were linked with several times? Do we want to be linked with him? Do we want him? So he's only 21 years old now, and it seems like he's been around for a long time. He's just one of them players that broke through at a young age, was very good, had the world at his feet. What do we think? Obviously, he's been in a squad that is not good enough for the Premier League a couple of times. So he's already been relegated, experienced that. He's experienced promotion. He's a good player. Been linked with us under a couple of managers now. Mourinho actually made him his top defensive target in April 2020. And we know what happened there. He asked for defensive targets and wasn't given any of what he asked for whatsoever. So Norwich, apparently they are valuing him now at, 18.7 million. Random figure, I know, but that's the figure that's been plucked out. That's almost half the price of when Bayern Munich came calling earlier this year. Now, I don't know what has dropped the valuation. Do they just need money in the door? I mean, they know they're probably going down, so any money they can get in, they'd be grateful for. They're one of these teams that are quite happy to drop down and then just jump back up and take all these balloon payments. From a business standpoint, that works for them. From a footballing standpoint, doesn't work whatsoever. It's completely ridiculous. Now, do we think Aarons is currently good enough to get into the Spurs squad? Now, my issue is right back is not our biggest priority right now. I mean, one more centre back of top quality would be nice, and maybe send Rodon out on loan or Tanganga out on loan. These guys need first team experience, so maybe both of them out on loan would benefit. Seeing as Ben Davies and Dyer are playing well, Romero is likely to come in and command a spot with Sanchez as backup. But look, it's not our priority right back. Royale has only just come in. He's improving every game. Is he at the level we want him to be at right now? No, but he's a work in progress. It's a different league. He's got to get used to it, and the position that he's in can only be good for him. He's had elements to his game that I quite like. On Matt Doherty as well. Look, although he struggled in his time at Spurs, if you watch his games for Ireland, he's been very good for them on a consistent basis on the right and the left, and he's even played at centre-back for them. So look, this guy's got the ability there. We saw what he could do at Wolves. Unfortunately, his time at Spurs, the majority of it has seen him playing right back, which is not his position. Conte plays a system that he fits in, and when he came on to replace Tanganga the other night, I thought he was very good. I say very good. I mean, he was good. He had a solid game. He got forward, made a couple of decent passes. A runner game should see a much better Doherty in his more natural position. But on the flip side, Aarons is a good player. He's young. He's got time on his side. 18.7 million, I suppose, isn't too much money. But we would have to sell one of Royale or Doherty. Now, to me, Doherty has to be the one to go out the door, just purely because of age and the fact that he's not our starting right wing back anyway. So let me know below, what do you think about that one? Do you think Aarons is a player that we should go for? Do you think he's peaked and possibly got worse since his first stint in the Premier League? Is he ever going to be good enough for Spurs? What do you think about that one? So there are your stories for today. COVID conundrum, Cameron Carter-Vickers, there's a lot of C's in there, isn't there? Dembele Mark II, and Max Aarons. So let me know below what you think about anything we spoke about today. Have you heard who any of these players are that have got COVID? I don't know. Let me know. I'm interested to see what your views are on all of these ones. It's certainly going to be an interesting night tomorrow night. Fingers crossed the game gets postponed for the benefit of everyone from a safety standpoint and our league position. Because Brighton have had a pretty poor run recently and they are due a game to bounce back. And I thought that was going to be the Southampton game. Turned out not to be. The last thing we want is to go over there with half a squad and them to have a very good performance and turn things around on that night, on a night that they really need in front of their own fans. So, yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for sticking around. I look forward to reading your comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get us over that 1,000 subscriber mark. Stay safe, and until tomorrow, come on you Spurs.